Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Unarmored Talk podcast. I know it's been 2 weeks. You guys know I drop an episode, publish an episode once every 2 weeks. That's twice a month. And we couldn't do it without you amazing viewers if you're watching, or listeners if you're on one of the podcast platforms. I'm your host, Mario P. Fields. And today's guest is Jenny Dilts. She is a mom of all things, right? She has many hats. She's a certified grief coach and more. Jenny, welcome to Unarmored Talk podcast.
Thank you so much, Mario.
No, thank you so much. It seems like I've known you for years, even though it's been virtually a couple of months.
Yep.
Yes. This is going to be a fun episode, ladies and gentlemen. They're all fun and exciting, but I'm excited about this one. Jenny, before we jump into the topic, can you tell the listeners and viewers a little bit about yourself?
So, Mario, you and I were just talking about one of my passion topics. And I'm going to share a little story. So, in my coaching training program, we were asked to introduce ourselves the first day. And so my introduction was, "Hi, I'm Jenny, and I love death." And I got the strangest looks. But the cool thing was my instructor, he got me. He knew instantly where I was coming from, and he had the same passion. So I knew I was in the right place.
Wow.
By the time I finished the training program, my intro was not "I love death," but I had expanded it a little bit. So my intro was, "Hi, I'm Jenny. I love death, but I love grief."
Right. That is, and again, ladies and gentlemen, that's why I'm just so excited to have Jenny on, because Jenny, let's just jump back. Let's just jump right into the topic. Jenny and I share. This was random, by the way. This is not what we were going to talk about. But right before we hit live and record, I just realized Jenny and I share the same passion belief. We are not afraid of death. We embrace it. So Jenny, let's talk about it. What is it about death that you're like, okay, not bad, let's go?
I see death as a transition. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's painful, it sucks, and it can wreck your whole life. And it can also be just like a career change or a relocation for your job. You get transferred to a new site or a new office. You get a promotion. Whatever change that happens, sure, you may move locations, but it's the same work, the same job, the same field.
Right.
You're just progressing and moving on.
And I'm thinking about your comments when you introduce yourself. Hey, my name is Jenny Dilts, and I accept, I embrace, I love death. And one person got it. Sometimes when I have conversations, I'm like, I can pretty much see, like, I have an imagination of how I'm going to die, and I'm okay with that. And I have a roadmap to death, and I'm living every day because I have this roadmap to death. When I start to talk about that, people look at me like, "Are you okay, Mario? Was it your service in the Marines? Are you good?" And I'm like, So so how did you when you had that reaction, except the teacher or whatever, how did you feel? What emotions did you experience? I can tell you what the ones I experienced.
For me, it's like, okay, whatever. This is who I am.
Yeah, I like that.
Here I am. I have a positive relationship with death. It doesn't bother me. I see it as a graduation, a promotion. I'm excited.
Yeah.
And even my 6-year-old, "Mommy, I don't want you to die. I would be sad." Yeah, I would be sad too. But also, I'm going to like it.
And I like how you said, "Hey, it is painful. It is." I mean, I just, I just realized I was grieving over the death of my mother for like 4 or 5 years until I changed my mindset about it, until I thought different about it. It was a choice. And I like how you're talking about, you don't choose to kind of do what everyone else is doing. where they're fearing. A lot of people just are believe they fear it, and it's a bad thing. Where you've chosen, let's make it a positive thing, and let's make it not the end of everything, but a period of transition. And I think that's amazing. And so I have to ask you, do you have an imagination of how long you think you will live? Just imagination, because I can tell you what mine is.
So I'm going to seem like even more of an oddball.
That's why I love this.
I believe that there are some people who get to live on this earth for longer, a lot longer than others. John the Beloved in the New Testament, Jesus came and was asking his apostles, his disciples, what they wanted. And Peter says, I want to come be with you when I die. And then he's like, hey, what about him? What about John? And Jesus is like, hey, back off. If he wants to stay on earth until I come again, that's his choice. That's what makes him happy. You let him be. That's his thing. That's my thing too.
Yeah, we have some similar beliefs. My imagination is that I will live to be in my 80s. Okay, of course, we know I may not live tomorrow, but my imagination in my roadmap to death is that Mario P. Fields will live into his 80s, and from now until then, the things I do are deliberate to that day. Where physically, the little man will be put in a little baby gap casket. You ain't gonna need much. You're right. For 5'2.5", you're not gonna need much. Inexpensive funeral. But then to spiritually transition, to continue to do great things. But if I start to have those conversations outside of this Unarmored Talk podcast platform, or with people like you, people would be like, Mario, why are you so excited to plan for your death? And I'm like, again, my belief is it's okay. It's going to happen. It's the inevitable. At least we know it's going to happen. Why not plan as much as you can for it?
Exactly. Yeah. And I was just having a conversation recently in the last month or two with a friend, and we were talking about this. Could it be that the measure of grief is related to the amount of planning that went in to the situation before the death? Because if somebody's plans are all set up, they've got whatever arrangements they want, they've got all this, like the logistical parts taken care of, how much easier would it be to then, when that death comes, I just do the checklist, follow the plan, we're good to go. Now I can focus on my grief.
Wow, great point. My wife and I started to create this master password sheet, if you will, that it's like, her and I only have access to it. And I said, last year I started it, and I said, babe, I want you to have access to all the accounts and passwords in the event I die. And she looked at me like, Mario, stop talking about that. You're going to live for a long time. I said, no, I believe I am. I said, but let's say it happens. We know it's going to happen. We just don't know when it's going to happen. At least that relieves the amount of turbulence and stress. And I never thought about what you just said. Now you can focus more effort on getting through the grieving process, which is a natural thing for humans, and not have all of this turbulence.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did that conversation go with your friend when you brought that up?
So she's the one that actually brought it up.
Wow.
So her story is her son was born with some medical challenges. And so his life was short. They did their best. They were caregivers. And then when he died, they had to think about insurance. They had to think about what to do with his medical equipment.
Right.
They had to think about who's going to pay the bills now, who's going to be the worker, how is my life going to shift? Because I was full-time caregiver 24/7. Now what?
Right.
And it stunted their ability to grieve because they had to take care of all of this logistical stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, I agree with you that it is so easy to talk about life insurance. We can sit there right there, you know, Jenny, I can meet you for a cup of coffee at your local coffee shop and talk about all the components of life insurance. You know, and everyone in the coffee shop, my belief, would just be like, oh, that's cool. You know, maybe he's a sales agent, insurance agent. But I meet you at a local coffee shop and I go, so thanks, Jenny, for meeting me. I truly appreciate it. So I just need your help in helping me really design my roadmap to death. And you go, I truly appreciate you inviting me, Mario. So you got an hour? Sure. And everyone in the coffee shop's going, what the? I believe it should be a positive topic. Again, the action of death, we all experience it. It's brutal on some of us. I know it was for me. I can only talk for me.
Yeah.
But to get through the grieving, to plan for it, we know the plan's not going to be perfect. But to develop a plan and to have it as a normal topic or normal conversational piece, I believe would be extremely helpful in the grieving process. What do you think?
I think so too. And in fact, that's one reason why I hold off. Like I'm currently not so active in connecting with funeral homes. Just because my specialty is really working with the grief and growing from it.
Right.
Like finding the benefits that grief can bring. For some people, that time in the funeral home is not the place for that.
Right.
Some people are so busy with logistics, even, oh my gosh, my world just shattered, in shock, numbness, disbelief, denial. When someone is in survival, there's no capacity, no room, no bandwidth to even think about grief.
Right. And as I'm listening to you, I'm just going back through the state of mind I was when my mom died, and then when my little brother died about a year and a half later. And you're absolutely accurate for me. I was not in a state of mind to have someone try to give me skills, to learn new behaviors, to get through this very catastrophic moment. But now that I'm reflecting, if I would have been able to have this conversation, I believe it wouldn't have eased the emotions experienced, but it would allow me to really get through the grieving process a lot, I would say, better. Mm-hmm. But the great thing now is that I'm at this mindset I'm in now, where I do have someone like you, Jenny, where you and I can talk for hours on the action of dying. Now I feel there's a lot more clarity in my life when it comes to my current living family members and how I would process that if it happens, including my plans to make it easier for my own family in case that, when it happens. Mm-hmm. Yeah, when it happens. So one last question before we wrap this positive episode in regards to death is, if you had one one thing, if they said there's 100 things that you can prepare before you die, but you can only pick one, Jenny. You can only pick one thing that you can leave behind. What would it be? And I know it's a tough one.
It would honestly be my perspective of death and grief. That they don't have to be the Grim Reaper. It doesn't have to be solemn, dark, serious, coming out to get you. No. It's so much more than that. Sure, that's part of it. Sure, it's painful and it hurts and it changes the world forever. And there's also immense growth, learning, light, laughter, even, that can come in that perhaps one of the most sacred moments of a person's life.
Yeah, no, Jenny, thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, again, we know that a loss of life is always just my belief. A loss of life is always a very tough thing to experience, a tough journey to go through. But like Jenny said, it doesn't always have to be so dark, and there are some goodness that comes out of the inevitable that is death. And to be able to change your mindset, to take a positive approach to something that will happen, rather we think we know when it will or not, you can actually change the way you grieve and the way the sadness and all the other emotions you experience when death occurs. Jenny, I truly appreciate you changing the topic seconds before we hit record. And this has been fun because I rarely get to interview or discuss this topic with anyone, because like you, I close my eyes every night and go, Mario, about 80 something, you're going to go. But until then, let's develop some plans so it helps the rest of the world do what? Not suffer as much, and allow, my wife and all those folks that love me to be able to grieve in a way where the rest of the stuff is not impacting the grieving process. You're awesome.
Thank you.
No, thank you for being so flexible. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to give you guys a quick, exciting episode on death. And this is Unarmored Talk. And thank you again, Jenny, for removing your armor with me to talk about a topic that is normally discussed during life insurance conversations.
Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, and then until next time in a couple of weeks, you guys be safe. God bless you all, and we'll see you next time.